April 25th, 2009. 17-year-old Brittanee Drexel is on a spring break trip to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
She's walking at a quick pace. You can tell that she's comfortable, but nobody behind her. And within minutes, she has vanished into thin air.
I said, "What do you mean they can't find her?"
Her mother, Dawn, left Rochester for Myrtle Beach after Brittanee disappeared.
Helicopters, ATVs, horseback.
I saw what was my loose child.
I had to find my daughter, and I wasn't going to stop until I got answers.
Brittanee Drexel, a 17-year-old high school junior, is living life to the fullest as an outgoing young woman in her hometown of Rochester, New York.
Brittanee was just an awesome kid. Very happy, carefree. She was very popular in school. Everybody just loved her.
We met through some mutual friends. Started hanging out like normal teenagers. She just loved going and doing things. She wasn't somebody that liked to sit still.
When she was younger, Brittanee was very sassy. Loved to perform in front of people. She used to sing, and she would put on shows for us in the backyard. She was a great kid.
When Brittanee turns 7, the Drexel family welcomes another child, Marissa.
When Marissa came along, she was very excited to have a little sister, and she was like a second mom. She would always help me. She would want to hold her all the time. She would want to feed her and play with her, and she loved being a big sister.
We had that bond where we could just lay and talk about things, or we could have those mother-like-daughter talks with each other, and she was always there when I needed her.
6 years after Marissa was born, Camden came along, and Brittanee was a lot older. Like, Camden was her baby. Like, she just adored Camden.
My sister was a social butterfly. She had millions, billions of friends. She was full of energy. She was a spitfire. She was full of, I don't know what word I want to use. She was full of life.
That year, Brittanee starts dating her first real boyfriend, a classmate named John Greco.
When we first met him, he had come over to the house because he wanted Brittanee to go to prom with him. You know, she was going on 16, and we'd said, sure, bring him over, you know, we'll meet him and stuff. John came from a great family. His parents are super nice, and Brittanee adored him.
She had a lot of big dreams and goals. She wanted to move out of Rochester. That was a huge thing.
My sister was into fashion.
Brittanee liked making clothes. She had quite a few drawings. She would dye jeans with bleach, and her friends would buy them and stuff, and she also wanted to model. She said, I'm going to have 6 kids, and my husband's going to stay home with them, and I'm going to go to work. And I'm like, yeah, good luck with that.
When Brittanee is in her junior year, her parents decide to divorce. It throws her into a tailspin.
She was upset about the divorce going on. It hurt. And of course, as a child, you're going through emotions, and, there was a lot of emotion there.
It took a while for Brittanee to come down when she was angry, to come down from it. There was a lot going on at that time, and a lot of her schoolwork was falling behind, and so Brittanee had asked about going to Myrtle Beach.
Spring break here, everyone leaves. It's either still really cold, wintry, or it's rain and blow me out. Myrtle Beach was a party scene. big city for teenagers who want to go out and have fun, or people in their young adulthood.
I told her, I said, Brittany, I don't think that's a good idea. I said, I want you to get caught up in your schoolwork. She's like, well, Mom, I want to go to Myrtle Beach. And I just told her, you're not going. And she goes, why, Mom? I said, you're not going to Myrtle Beach. I said, there's no parental supervision. I said, I don't know the kid you're going with. And I said, something's going to happen to you. And Brittany said, Mom, nothing's going to happen to me. I'll be fine. And I said, well, Brittany, you're not going. So about an hour later, she said, Mom, since it's my spring break, can I go stay at my friend's house? And I told her it was okay for her to stay there.
On the night of April 22, 2009, unbeknownst to her family, Brittany and two classmates, Alana and Jennifer, began a 13-hour drive to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I had called her and I said, Britt, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm going to go to my friend's house. We're going to watch a movie or whatever. And she says, I love you. And I told her, I said, I love you too.
Me and my mom thought she was here, but in reality, she wasn't. I told her I missed her. And then I said, wait, before you hang up, I want to say goodbye, I love you, one more time. It's the last time I heard her voice.
With her family still none the wiser, the girls arrive at the resort town on the morning of April 23rd. But as her sister will later learn, after 2 days at the beach, Brittany's spring break isn't going as planned.
She was texting John. John couldn't go because he was working, so he had to stay back. But John knew the whole time.
On Saturday evening, April 25th, Brittany texts John that she needs a break from the girls she traveled with.
The girls she went down with, I think, were a year or two older than her. And because they're girls, they're young teenage girls, and they were fighting. She told John she felt alienated and alone. She wanted to come back home.
Brittany tells John that she ran into one of her classmates, Peter Brockwitz, and has decided to go visit him at his hotel around 9:15 p.m. Brittany abruptly stops texting John. It's unlike her, so he worriedly calls her family.
John said, Brittany's in Myrtle Beach and they can't find her. I said, what do you mean they can't find her? I was livid. I said, I can't believe she went to Myrtle Beach because she had never done that in the past, like lied to me or anything like that. John came to my house. We were calling the kids that were in Myrtle Beach. The girls wouldn't answer their phone. I kept calling Brittany's phone. And it would ring, and it would ring, and then it went directly to voicemail. Every time I called Peter answered the phone every single time. But he's like, I'm not her babysitter. And at that point, I said, we need to get in touch with Myrtle Beach Police Department.
Dawn calls the Myrtle Beach police to report Brittany is missing, but she doesn't stop there. She decides to drive to South Carolina herself.
My mom said, listen, you're going to go with your dad for a couple days. I have to go. And all of a sudden, I went to go look at my phone. There's a mass text sent out from John Greco. And it's my sister's picture and missing information. And I said, what is this? Then I started crying. I'm shocked. And I'm like, Brittany's missing. I was in a state of shock.
We got everything together. I think we left about maybe 11 the next morning. And it was a long ride. My phone was blowing up with her friends. They're calling me, crying, screaming, where's Brittany? As soon as I would hang up with someone, my phone would ring again. Like, all I knew is I had to find my daughter, and I wasn't going to stop until I got answers.
After learning that her daughter, Brittanee Drexel, is missing in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, her mom, Dawn, immediately begins driving there from her home in upstate New York, 800 miles away.
So I get to Myrtle Beach and I go to the police station.
But officers tell Dawn that with no evidence of a crime, there's little law enforcement can do. When she describes the argument she had with her daughter about spring break, they suggest that could be why Brittanee isn't responding to calls and texts.
You've got bits of evidence that's saying she ran away from home, she rebelled against her mama, it's the day before she's supposed to go back, the idea that a young girl has just run away. But it is something that the police consider every time.
My mom knew my sister was not a runaway. No matter how much bad was going on in my sister's life at that point, she knew my sister wouldn't have ran away.
After failing to gain any traction with law enforcement, Dawn decides to take a different approach.
I go straight to the media. I went to Channel 13 and, I said, my daughter's missing. I want to get her name and face out there.
Her mother, Dawn, left Rochester for Myrtle Beach after Brittanee disappeared.
To feel, that you don't know where your child is. You don't know if they're alive. You don't know if they're hurt. It's horrible.
Figured I'd be able to find her, and I'd have her back in a couple days and we'd just go home. And we just started looking everywhere, like on Ocean Boulevard, and talking to people, seeing if people seen her, showed her picture, and we were putting posters up. So we did that probably for about a good solid week.
As Dawn continues to search, her media efforts catch the attention of the police and spurs them to action. Detectives begin by interviewing the last person Dawn believes saw Brittanee on the night she vanished, her classmate Peter.
Peter was a little bit snarky, like, don't bother me. And the police were thinking, everybody wants to help. He doesn't want to be bothered. He said, I did know Brittanee. I had met Brittanee. We had hung out. We had texted back and forth, but I didn't have anything to do with her disappearance.
Peter claims that after Brittanee left his hotel, he was hanging out with friends all night. While detectives check out his alibi, they also seek out anyone else known to have been in contact with Brittanee in Myrtle Beach, including the girls she drove with from New York.
They went through each and every one of Brittanee's friends for the short time that she was here, and they really scoured everything about them, and they were able to rule them out.
Peter's alibi also checks out.
He was able to show that everything that he was telling them was true.
But the investigation into Peter does lead detective to a major discovery. His hotel, the Blue Water Resort, has surveillance cameras, and they captured images of Brittanee on the evening of April 25th. Brittanee enters the hotel at 8:33 p.m., and she appears again, exiting at 8:48 p.m.
As far as we knew, that was the last time that anybody had seen her. You can tell that she's walking at a fairly quick pace with nobody behind her. She's comfortable, but she's determined to get to wherever she is going.
It's just after leaving the hotel that Brittanee exchanges her final texts with her boyfriend John at 8:58 p.m., again expressing her desire to come home.
Within minutes, she has basically vanished into thin air.
Investigators request Brittanee's cell phone records, hoping they might shed light on her whereabouts.
They did a tower dump back from the day that Brittanee went missing on all of the cell towers.
The cell phone records arrive a week after Brittanee's disappearance. At 11:57 on the night of April 25th, Brittanee's phone pings near the North Santee River in McClellanville, a small town 60 miles south of Myrtle Beach. That's nearly 3 hours after the surveillance video shows Brittanee leaving the Blue Water Hotel.
They started searching in a very heavily wooded area for her. I mean, helicopters, ATVs, horseback. It was overwhelming because it's a forest where they were looking for her. And they told me if she was put out there, she would be probably dead within 6 hours because of the wild boar, the alligators, just all the wild animals. But you have to have hope. You have to have faith.
Everybody was there. There was a lot of people that were looking for her. It was a needle in a haystack.
I was just in shock, and I just wanted my sister to come back home.
I tried so hard just to keep thinking, maybe she's still out there. They searched them and they didn't find anything. After that, I had stayed in Myrtle Beach for a good month and a half.
My mom was in distress. Even though there was searchers there, she just felt like she had to do it. That's her firstborn. That's her baby. She had to find her. At least know what happened.
Hope is strange. I'd like to say in the beginning it got me through. Because I was convinced Brittanee was coming home.
I left at the end of June, and then I went back to Rochester. But I was calling law enforcement every day. I just wanted to find my daughter.
Days, weeks, months, and then years pass with no answers for Brittanee's family and friends.
I felt like nothing was going on in Brittanee's case. This went on for years. I mean, you're talking, she went missing in 2009. I can tell you, the ball was dropped here. The police wanted me to go away. And I felt like I had to just keep after them and after them and after them. And I didn't care if I was bugging them. I don't care. You're going to answer to me. I am her mother.
Dawn was desperate for answers. She felt like she wasn't getting cooperation from the police. Imagine trying to put yourself in the position where she's a mom. She's been thrust into a world of not just the justice system, but trying to maneuver. You're dealing with law enforcement. You're dealing with media. And it's a very foreign and frightening place. I put myself more in a role of, let me help her get her story told.
I held on to just a little bit of hope that she was still alive because I always went back to we didn't have anything.
Dawn Drexel wouldn't quit. She drove all of us crazy. She called me every single day since 2011. It didn't matter if it was Christmas. It didn't matter what time of day it was. And I always answered the phone. Some of my friends would say, you have no boundaries with this woman. And I would say, I can't. I saw what it was like to lose a child. I sat there with her, and nobody would help her.
After more than 2 years with no answers, on August 1st, 2011, out of the blue, Myrtle Beach police receive a strange and stunning call from a young woman. The story she tells concerns her father, a man named Ray Moody.
She said, I think my dad had something to do with Brittanee Drexel's disappearance. Mr. Moody, his main girlfriend was Angel, and there was a time that Angel called over there one night and said that Ray was going to get all of them locked up because of what he had done to that girl.
So you guys were dating at the time?
Yes. Myrtle Beach police brought Angel in and talked with her about that after the kids had called. And the substance of that conversation was, Ray didn't have anything to do with that. I'm so sick and tired of people blaming Ray for everything that happens.
Because if you're trying to accuse him of anything, then I'm not going to be involved in it. Because I say he didn't, okay? I say he did not.
I'm not accusing him.
I'm not, yeah, you are.
Despite Angel's denials, police take a deeper look at Ray Moody.
They were able to get a search warrant at Sunset Lodge, which is hotel / long-term rental. Raymond was staying at that area when Brittanee had gone missing.
SLED crime scene technicians, with help from Myrtle Beach Police and the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office, searched an apartment at the Sunset Lodge south of Georgetown today.
They were looking for anything that would tie Ray to Brittanee Drexel. They went out and talked with Ray at his cabinet shop. And they told him they were searching for Brittanee Drexel. And he said, "You're smart, you'll figure it out."
After years with no leads, Ray Moody is a suspect in the disappearance of Brittanee Drexel. Detectives are questioning him after his daughter reported her suspicions about him to the police.
That investigation, that part of it, the search warrant, yielded nothing fruitful. There wasn't enough to arrest him.
Once again, the case goes cold. It's now been 7 years since Brittanee vanished on a spring break trip to Myrtle Beach.
I can tell you it felt like a roller coaster ride. That's what it felt like. You know, ups and downs. They would get tips and then it'd be like, oh, you know, maybe she's getting located or whatever the case may be. And then there was false hope. And then that really kills you inside, you know, because they're like, you're just like, is she ever going to be found?
The 4th or 5th year into her disappearance, I knew she wasn't coming back. I'm like, I know she's gone.
It's a strange feeling to have to switch, looking for, you know, somebody physically here, and now we're just looking for, you know, what's left. And that, I think, was the worst thing I've ever gone through, emotionally, the worst thing I've ever felt.
Law enforcement would call me and I would talk to them, and this went on for years.
I spent, I can't tell you how many hours just on the internet doing research. I obsessed over watching the video of Brittanee walking in and out of the hotel. I would slow it down to see if there was anything that I could pick up on. I would speed it up. I mean, I watched at all different angles. I couldn't watch it enough because I always felt like I was missing something.
Then in August 2016, Brittanee's mother, Dawn, gets a phone call that promises to provide the answers she's been desperate for.
The FBI had called me. They wanted me to come down so they could talk to me. And they brought me into a conference room. We all sat down.
An informant trying to get help with his prison sentence said, "Well, don't you want to know information about the little girl that went missing?"
The informant is an inmate named Taquan Brown, serving a 25-year prison term for manslaughter. He claims that he witnessed a man named Timothy Deshawn Taylor rape and kill Brittanee.
He tells the story that Brittanee Drexel had been kidnapped in Myrtle Beach, was brought to a house near McClellanville, and she had been raped and tortured and all sort of terrible stuff. And he was over there and had saw all of this stuff. And she had ran out the back door, and they had called her and brought her back in and killed her.
So I was just sitting there sobbing, and I couldn't even talk. I couldn't do it. The FBI told me she tried to escape, and she ran out. They went to go get her, brought her back, and then they ended up shooting her. And then they rolled her up in a blanket or a rug, and then threw her in an alligator pit. And I walked out of there, and I'm like, oh my God. We always had kept hope alive that maybe Brittanee was still out there. And that really messed me up, big time. You know, having to picture that in your mind, it's just crazy. You know, to think that someone would do that with my daughter.
Agents furiously worked to confirm the details provided by the informant.
Now, what really corroborated his story was Brittanee's cell phone had pinged in an area in the direction of McClellanville.
Even though that's where the inmate claims Brittanee was murdered, investigators know their previous searches in that area were big news stories, and that confidential informants will often say anything in hopes of getting a reduced sentence.
Look, CIs will lie, and I don't use CIs unless I can back up what they're saying.
Timothy Deshawn Taylor is already in jail on separate robbery charges. Authorities work to keep him behind bars while they look for any information that might support the confidential informant's claim. But Dawn believes the awful story could be true.
Dawn did not allow herself any time to mourn. She quickly shifted from, I don't know what happened to my daughter, to where's her body? I want my daughter brought home.
I said, I'm done. I said, I'm done with the bullshit. I said, I want my daughter found, so I don't have to wonder where she is anymore.
7 years after Brittanee Drexel disappeared in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, investigators are looking into a stunning claim by a jailhouse informant that he witnessed a man named Timothy Deshawn Taylor murder her.
All of a sudden, the investigation and the media attention, all of us shift to what the investigators tell us. Listen, if the FBI is up there saying, we got a suspect, we believe that this is what happened, you know, Taylor is under investigation, being charged with armed robbery. And I had the opportunity to confront Taylor about his involvement in this case. Did you do this? And he said, no, I did not.
In August 2016, the Taylor family launches a media offensive, releasing a statement maintaining his innocence. They claim the informant lied to the FBI in a desperate attempt to cut a deal for early parole.
That informant said that Brittanee Drexel was buried at a plot in Berkeley County, which is west of Charleston. Investigators went down there, and once they start digging, that informant calls in, and he says, look, she was fed to alligators. She was not buried. Brown later came in and said, all of that was untrue. I lied. So none of that went anywhere, but there were many more like that, false leads.
Police eventually cleared Timothy Deshawn Taylor of any involvement in Brittanee's disappearance. It's another emotionally draining twist for her family and friends.
And by that point, I was so frustrated. I didn't really trust anybody. So after that, I was on the phone with the FBI every week. I mean, they would keep in contact with me, let me know what was going on.
The FBI agents, since 2016 on, were determined to find out what happened and bring my mom that justice that she was grieving and asking for, and the justice that obviously all of us wanted.
I had a meeting with the FBI and some of the law enforcement, that was involved in Brittanee's case. I just felt like Brittanee's never going to be found. This is ridiculous. After that, I felt like nothing was going on in Brittanee's case.
Then in May 2022, 13 years since Brittanee was last seen, once again there's a phone call out of the blue, and once again it offers hope.
On a Friday night, I get a call from a defense attorney, Scott Bellamy. He said, well, I've got somebody that's wanting to give you some information. He'll give the information to you, but he won't give it to the police. And I said, well, who is it? And he said, Ray Moody.
It's the same man investigators looked at earlier in the case when his daughter reported that he may have been involved. Police were unable then to connect him to Brittanee's disappearance. Now his lawyer claims Moody has a story to tell. But he'll only tell it to state authorities and not the FBI.
He wants to stay in the state system. He does not want to go in the federal system because he knows he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and he wants to be closer to family members. And if you go in the federal prison, you may be in West Virginia, you may be in California.
Where are y'all from? Alabama. Yeah, that's right. I thought you're from.
Ray Moody sits down with state investigators and begins laying out the details of what he says happened on the night of April 25th, 2009.
Ray said that in 2009, he and Angel had come to Myrtle Beach. They were riding down the boulevard. He said, so a young lady came out of a hotel, and he said that he and Angel were smoking pot, and Ray asked Brittanee, do you want some of this pot? And she said, yeah. Ray said that Brittanee got in the back seat. They went where he and Angel had been camping at the pole yards, and they were just going to hang out there for a while.
We're just having a good time, smoking some pot and stuff, you know. Angel left. And while she was gone, I changed the whole subject, what was going on.
Can you describe the events that happened when Angel leaves? So Angel's obviously not involved. Can you talk us through that?
I made her take her clothes off.
Yeah.
And she was pretty cooperative.
Yeah, she was.
But it was against her will.
It was, yeah. Did she say anything to you specifically at that time?
She said she was going to, she'd tell Angel on me.
And did you start to have sex with her, or did something happen to stop that?
To stop me from having sex?
Yes.
No, I did. I
did.
I raped her.
And he said, she scratched me. I hit her. All of that was over. And he said, then I killed her. He said, I strangled her to death. Ray Moody never showed any remorse. Was a very disturbed individual at a deep level. Angel came back and said, where is Brittanee? And he said, you don't see her, do you? And she said, no. He said, well, don't ever ask about her again. The next morning before daybreak, he got up and he said, I dug the hole, buried her body.
Picked her right up and walked out, probably about 150 feet away, more towards the landing, out where they had to like grow the trees and stuff growing, and put her underneath the tree.
So we were like, will you take us to her body? Yeah, I'll take you where she's buried. And they put him on a four-wheeler and drove him through. He said, I haven't been here in 13 years. But that's the place.
A search of the area begins on May 11th, 2022.
So once they start digging, there was bones. There was a nose ring. And there was one contact lens. The next day, they had her as Brittanee by her dental records. And then within 2 days, they had DNA that said that is, in fact, Brittanee Drexel.
Brittanee Drexel's family has spent 13 years desperately searching for answers in her disappearance. And now, with a suspect in custody, they finally have them. But their worst fears have been realized.
I was so mad because Raymond Moody had been person of interest back in 2011. He's a level 3 sex offender. He shouldn't even be in Myrtle Beach with all the kids and stuff here, okay? You've got to be kidding me.
The most frustrating part of this whole investigation for me is I learned that the day after Brittanee Drexel went missing, they pulled Raymond Moody over. When you get a speeding ticket, it came up that he was a registered sex offender. He has scratches on his face. There's a missing girl in town. It doesn't take a genius to say, hey, wait a second. Maybe we should take this guy in. Maybe we should look at him. Nobody batted an eye. She was the perfect target. You know, we hear from him, oh, she wanted to party. She wanted to get in the car and smoke weed. From the friends and family that I've spoken to, Brittanee Drexel could not stand the smell of marijuana. She would not smoke marijuana. She would not even date a guy who smoked marijuana. And if Raymond Moody said that he lured her to the car with marijuana, Raymond Moody's lying. It's incomprehensible to me that this guy got away with what he got away with.
I will accept your plea to murder, criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, and to kidnapping.
October 19th, 2022. Raymond Moody pleads guilty to murder, rape, and kidnapping. He is sentenced to life in prison with an additional 2 consecutive terms of 30 years. His girlfriend, Angel, is not charged with any crime.
The driving force to keep this case hot was Dawn Drexel. She was hitting a lot of the same obstacles the police were, but she constantly came back into town, constantly looking, constantly calling. And even though it had to be excruciating, this is something that she has had to endure for 13 years to make sure that she got answers. And as terrible as those answers are, she stuck it out and she got them. And I don't think it would have been possible but for her persistence. She didn't allow anybody to forget about Brittanee.
Dawn is a complete icon to me because I don't know how mentally, health-wise, I could have handled it.
That strength from me, I think I felt like I had to find her. But it was like a mission.
Until we reunite with my sister, Brittanee, we will feel we got the answers we wanted, but it will never fill that missing piece in our family. She's still gone.
Brittanee was just a beautiful person, and she would do anything for anyone.
About a month before everything happened, it was my birthday party. We all went to dinner with my parents, and we just had an absolute blast. Brittanee was laughing and having fun. She ordered this obnoxious steak, and Brittanee was 110 pounds soaking wet. So my dad was kind of looking at her like, are you sure, kid? And was really eyeing her, and she's like, yeah, and I want a grasshopper milkshake too. It's personality, her love of life, her infectious attitude, her smile, her laugh, her goofiness. There's nothing I don't miss.
My sister was very kind and caring. She would never hurt us all. And that's something that we're missing from the world now. And this world is such full of hate that I hope one day it can be peaceful for all of us.
Sometimes I'll go back and look at video of her when she was younger. And I do look at her pictures a lot, but, her memory will always be in my heart, I'll always remember the good times I had with her.
Thanks for watching. Click right here to uncover the next chilling mystery. We assure you it'll keep you captivated. See you in the next video.